Hey everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to put this bed to bed. Sort of. Okay, so one of the problems you run into in the summertime here in Jacksonville at least, and particularly right now, we're not getting any rain. And so even though I've been watering a lot, you can see that the top part of the soil dries up very quickly. Now you can see I've been watering, so there is some moisture down below, but not a lot. So one of the things that happens when you leave your dirt bare is that you have a lot of death. Alright, so the sun is going to cook that top layer of soil, and it's going to kill off all the microbial and small life that I've been trying to cultivate in this garden bed for some time. And so we got to do something about it. Now one of the issues we run into here, normally I use a lot of grass clippings for both mulch and compost. And because we haven't been getting any rain, and even though I do have a sprinkler system, I mean, unless I run it every day, which is illegal, I can only run it twice a week. A sprinkler system just doesn't put enough water out to really deep soak the earth. And that's really what we need right now, some rain. We're going through a drought period right now, so we just got to deal. So now I've got to figure out a way to keep this soil protected and moist and keep that life going in the soil. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and I'm going to clean it up. All right, and by that I mean I'm going to try and kill off all the small weeds. I pulled out all the big plants and the big weeds. You'll see I do have some peppers in here, and I have some onions. Now these are what some people call bunching onions or spring onions, but they're not really designed to bulb out. They primarily are harvested for the greens. But as you can see, even they are looking rough, despite the fact that not only does a sprinkler sprinkle this area, but I come out here daily and water my gardens. So let me show you what I'm going to do to set my beds up for my fall planting. All right, because I really don't have enough stuff to plant in the summer to really keep these beds covered with something green and keep the life going on inside the soil, because pretty much a lot of what I will normally plant will die back in the summertime here. Between the heat and the humidity, it dies quick. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this partially finished compost, because I don't have any finished compost, so I'm using it as fast as I can make it. I'm going to sprinkle this all around here, if I can keep the wagon from rolling away. Alright, so I'm going to take this partially finished compost and I'm going to tuck it all up around the plants that are in here. I'm going to cover up the bed. And I'm just going to give it a small layer for a couple of reasons. One, I am going to put some actual mulch on top of this, so I don't need to use the compost as mulch. Now the compost as mulch does work, particularly stuff like this that isn't completely broken down, and at least that's been my experience in the past. I'm planning on mulching this area with a thicker, healthier layer of grass clippings that have not broken down. So this is just kind of like a starter to try and get things to start breaking down. And then another consideration is that I have some seeds in here that have fallen from my lettuce plants that were here before. And I would like to see some of that volunteer again next year. And hopefully enough of it will volunteer that I won't have to go out and buy seeds or use up all the saved seeds that I have. Either way, this has got a lot of life in it, a lot of nutrients, and it'll help keep the soil protected and fed. And that should help with the onions growing better, because you can see they're getting really dry. And that is despite, like I said, I'm watering this daily. It's just not enough. I mean, I literally spend probably an hour and a half a day out here watering. But yeah, I know I could go out and buy a sprinkler system, just for the garden. But one, you're not supposed to run sprinkler systems except for the days of the week that you're allowed to do so. And two, I'm retired, so it's not like I got a whole bunch of other stuff to do. So I don't mind doing it. It gives me a chance to really look at my plants and see what's going on in the garden. Now, in a perfect world, this would all be well broken down compost. But again, that's just not something I have in abundance at the moment. Now, one thing I will tell you is this compost is not hot. All right, if you have compost that is still really hot, like up in the hundreds and 120s and so on, I would not put that on your plants directly, because that might actually continue to heat up and cause you problems. All right, man, it's hot out here. You can see I'm sweating. So let me go get some grass clippings. All right, so now these grass clippings are warm, okay? And in fact, that spot right there is very hot, all right? And they will heat up quickly, but you want to put them on very thin, all right? Not more than about 1 inch tall, and then the heat will dissipate. Now, you can avoid this by a couple different ways. You can actually take these and put them out either on your lawn or on a driveway and let them sit for a day, and then turn this basically into a brown layer. All right, but now, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, that kind of kills the effectiveness of the nitrogen that's stored in these grass clippings. So I'm going to put these on, try and be fairly quick about it, and then I'll cool them with a good bit of water. All right, so let me get that done, and I'll show you the next step. All right, so one of the things I do, all right, if you got a hose laying out in the sun, that water will get as hot as the water in your water heater, and you really don't want to spray that directly on your plants. So I always run it first, water something from a distance, because the water cools pretty quickly, so when it hits those plants, it should be fine. All right, but let that water cool off before you spray your plants with it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I soak this down really, really good. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, I want to cool off any heat that might be in those grass clippings. Because I'm telling you, grass clippings that sit on top of grass clippings will heat up very quickly and get very hot. So you don't want that to be nuking your plants. I mean, you know, I like cooking onions, but I don't like cooking them in the garden. All right, and then we're going to water this down very thoroughly. We're going to water this down very thoroughly, and I'll continue after we're done talking. Oh, wow. Close down my glasses. But I'm going to water this very thoroughly because, one, the soil itself is somewhat dry underneath. Though I did water it yesterday and it still was somewhat moist. Two, I've got 2 layers. I've got the grass clippings to soak through, and I've got the small amount of compost that's got to get soaked through. Being as it is partially finished compost, it's going to soak up moisture a lot better than completed compost will, in my opinion now. So we're going to soak this bed very thoroughly and let that water get all the way down in there, and then we shouldn't have to worry as much about watering this bed. It should maintain the moisture. The pepper should start to really grow. The onions should hopefully get a little bit greener. We'll be able to harvest more tops and dry them and use them in cooking and what have you. So this will actually hopefully make this bed a good solid producer for the fall. So once the fall gets here, then I'll start looking at maybe clearing the mulch, or maybe just pulling it aside, and I can start to plant my fall plants like cauliflower and broccoli and lettuce and so on. All right, so that is how I go about preparing my beds for fall planting. All right, and it's also how I go about protecting my soil. All right. Now, unfortunately, right now, grass clippings are hard to come by because we don't have a lot of rain, so the grass isn't really growing. So I got to be careful with what I got, but I'm going to cover as much as I can between this and another thing called cover cropping, which we'll cover in another video. But these are some of the things that I'm doing to try and protect my soil so I still have good, solid, rich soil come the fall so I can plant the things that I want to plant. All right, thanks for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and a subscribe, and let me know what you think. But most importantly, grow some. And now is a great time to get started preparing your beds for fall planting here in the Jacksonville area. All right, thanks once again. Y'all come back and see me.